This is Printed and Pressed. I'm Chris.
And I'm Andrew.
And unlike last week, I'm not going to spend 15 minutes fiddling around with Twitch because that was boring for everyone.
Chris got sick of playing with himself a while back, but
I still got that Twitch.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But so yeah, anyways, we are working on covering the book Sword and Serpent by Taylor Marshall, or also known as Dr. Taylor Marshall, Taylor R. Marshall. I don't know. He's got a lot of aliases with the way his name's spelled. But I think he's most famous for his
Is he
YouTube
a real
channel.
Doctor, Chris? Is he a real doctor?
He's not a medical doctor.
No, what kind of doctor is he, Chris?
I think he's theology.
So
I could be wrong. Maybe philosophy as well.
Got it.
Jeez.
Not a real doctor. He's like those, Well,
I mean, to be fair, though, he doesn't put it on his book that way either.
That's fair, then. I'll forgive.
But it says PhD. He's the president of New St. Thomas Institute, the author of Crucified Rabbi, Catholic Perspective on Paul, The Eternal City, Thomas Aquinas, 50 pages, St. Augustine in 50 pages, etc.,
He's
etc.
extremely Catholic to anyone who has not gathered that.
He didn't start out that way, though. He's actually a convert. He was a Episcopalian priest.
Perfect. So he's an overcompensating new Catholic. Got it.
Well, he converted a long time ago.
Well,
I mean, we're talking like, when did he convert? I think like Benedict was still the Pope, so like pre-2013.
Okay. Well, point being made is he's an overcompensating convert. Feels like he has to make.
I don't know why he has to be overcompensating.
Because we're just gonna go with it.
All right, whatever.
Like someone who feel like they don't got street cred because of whatever reason, and then they show up and they got to be like, "Yeah, I'm hard."
What?
What?
What did you just
raised
say?
by the streets?
Hey, listen. So
what
you would just real quick? What you would appreciate? He actually did like a stream where he spent like multiple parts of the stream talking about seed oils and how bad they are for you. And
sure, I would respect that. There we go. Whatever.
Anyway,
I bet he still bathes in them. So
I doubt it. So this is the book Sword and Serpent. I actually, embarrassingly enough, this is like the fourth time I've bought this book because I gave it to other people the first couple times. So I own this. I've got the audiobook, obviously. And then the Kindle one was really cheap after I got the audiobook, so I just got it. So we're going to throw it up on the screen since I have it.
Yeah, I got the digital version because I did not deem it a hard copy purchase.
Well, it only has a paperback. So if
they were surprisingly expensive paperbacks. I mean,
they are expensive paperbacks.
I know Catholics are supposed to be against usury and stuff, Chris, but the way he prices these books, I swear there's a little bit of...
The problem I see with like more niche books like this, and this is just kind of a commentary on all small author, publisher, etc. He has a large audience on YouTube, but that doesn't automatically translate to people buying his books. And the St. John Press that I believe that's actually his own publishing group. And since it's kind of a niche title, it's less niche than Lockdown with the Devil. It's less niche than that.
I think people should focus more on digital editions for niche books. And then you release like special edition hard copies for true fans.
Well, the sad thing about it, in my opinion, actually, is that the reason these are expensive, the physical editions, is more to do with supply and demand of a niche title. And the fact that his publishing company is small. Like,
what I was going to say is that we've looked at the Folio Society and Easton Press on here before.
Find a company like that that's willing to work with Taylor Marshall. Okay?
No, but I'm saying like a company actually. Okay, but what I was about to say is a company like that dedicated to niche audience books would actually probably be kind of a neat business plan.
He would probably have to go the Brandon Sanderson route, which I'm not sure if you know about that.
No.
But essentially, Brandon Sanderson reached out to like a small publishing unit, and they worked with like some local leather-bound groups that helped him to publish special editions of his books. And then he has an exclusive contract with a company that's called Dragonsteel. and essentially they work together on all of his books. So like all of his books are more expensive. They're like in the $125 range per book, but you're getting high quality, and he helps design all of them. So like if Taylor Marshall wanted to do something like that with his books, he'd probably have to go the same route, because you have to find somebody like a group that's willing to work with him on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that his books are like what, $20 something for paperbacks.
Yeah, and they don't really drop in price either. Like
Yeah,
the lowest I've seen them go for is like 17.
yeah, I mean, the second you break $15 for a paperback, that's a bit pricey, you know? So I was just saying that I think more people should focus on digital editions for these types of books, and then try to sell an actual hardcover to people who actually want the book, instead of doing paperback. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice. Like this is the type of book where I would have upgraded to a hard, even if the hardcover was $25, $30,
Well, okay,
even like $40. I would.
The reason I say that though is because paperbacks don't hold up well enough to be worth $24.
They don't. You're right. I mean, these, like as far as paperbacks go, these aren't like the highest quality I've ever had, but these are more durable.
The problem is his books are big enough that a paperback is still kind of problematic.
It is. The biggest issue I have with this edition specifically is there's actually like a glue related issue in the top. It creates a little hump here, and it makes me mad.
But I'm saying that that's also an issue when a book is over a certain number of pages.
It is like, but I mean, look, I will say this. Do you see any folds in that?
No.
So as far as quality goes, this is like a mid-tier to high-tier paperback.
Yeah.
It's not the best. It's not the worst, but it's definitely a step above the ones that crease the second you open them.
True. I'm just saying that you would never. No one's ever going to convince me that $24 for a paperback is worth it. So.
No, I think if you're going to get this, even if you're going to read these, I would suggest get the Kindle version first. Yeah. Try it out. If you really like it and you want a physical copy, try it first.
If you find yourself reading it a second time on the Kindle, then maybe get a physical copy if you want to have it on a shelf. But
I mean, this was my second read through of the book, and that had more to. In fact, is the second read through in less than a year.
But the problem I have with paperbacks is it doesn't matter how well you take care of the book.
They do degrade no matter what.
Yeah. Whereas at least with a hardcover, it's not really going to break if you take care of it. Well, not right away. It won't. But
I mean, this isn't the reason we do this show, but I will say, for authors who are selling like a more boutique or niche title such as this, I would like to see more authors selling books like this in hardcovers, like Andrew said. I agree.
I'm just saying that right now with we normally don't discuss it this way for a book, but I feel like it's actually an important conversation because it was actually a barrier of me not wanting to read this.
Right.
When we first discussed, I'm like, wow, the actual copy is expensive as crap, man. Like,
and a book like this, expensive? The biggest problem with a book like this is, unlike a lot of like very large, like for example, if you went and looked up Lord of the Rings on eBay right now, you could find hundreds of paperbacks of Lord of the Rings for like $5 or less.
You can find a hardcover for $25.
Right. So like for this, there's no secondhand market. You're not going to find a lot of used copies of Sword and
Serpent. You can find a new one for almost $25 if I'm not mistaken, dude. Like for some of the
what I'm saying is like you either buy these brand new, or you don't buy them.
Yeah.
Because there's really nobody's selling these secondhand. You're not going to find them. That's really the problem with more niche titles like this one, is that you just And it's not. I think this is less niche than Lockdown with the Devil, though.
It is, but it's also bigger, which is why it's problematic price wise.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that Lockdown with the Devil is cheap, but this one does not have. This one captures more broad Christianity. Yeah, it has it's got its Catholic biases throughout, but I don't feel like a random Christian person picking up this book is going to have the same problems you have with Lockdown with the Devil.
Oh, that's fair. I was more so just saying that with this book, it's a shame how expensive the paperback is for a physical copy, because I do like to support the authors we cover in our
right.
So it's like I like to buy the physical book just for that sake, but
I'm
at
probably
the
going to
same
clip this
time,
clip because I think this is good advice for any
yeah.
author. Is like, hey, people who want these books, especially when you're selling, like you're not selling Lord of the Rings.
Granted, in fairness, they probably actually make more money if I buy the Kindle version, so it's whatever. But
I don't know because like
I've heard before that they actually make more when you buy the digital sometimes, but I
it
could be
depends on the
wrong.
price. I'm sure. I think with a smaller book, that's probably true. With a larger book, I don't know. But anyway, so Sword and Serpent. It's got the subtitle is a retelling of Saint George and the Dragon. And if you're lucky enough to get the this little stamp on here, it says bonus content inside. I actually don't think this is in the Kindle version.
Probably not.
Because I went through my Kindle version. I didn't see it, but I also didn't look hard at it.
What is the bonus?
It's an extra chapter where it's like 3 pages, but basically Mari goes to see Nikolaus after she gets stabbed by Casca, and she basically tells him not to worry about her and that he needs to worry about Jurian and Minas and everybody else. So it's just kind of like, oh, she's good. Like God took her. It's all good. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that was not in the.
It is in the audiobook version. It's like after you finish the book. Actually, the audiobook for this is Chef's Kiss. It's so good. But guess who it is that did the audiobook?
Who?
Kennedy Hall.
Okay.
So Lockdown with the Devil, the author of that book, did the audiobook for this one. And wow, he has some of the best audiobook narration of anybody I've ever listened to. He's one of the best, like top tier.
Sure. I haven't heard him do anything.
I'll have to send you a clip sometime so you can hear it and see what you think. But
I probably won't like his voice just because I don't like his books. So.
Well, just pretend you don't know who it is. But anyways, so if you're looking for an audiobook for this, I would highly recommend it. I think it's expensive. Might have been like $20, but if you're an audiobook person,
that's my one problem with these in general. We'll go back to this again, but everything about it is expensive. Even his Kindle version's expensive.
I am curious now. Let's just look up the current going prices because I think that is a good criticism. I think once a book's been out long enough, you got to lower your margins.
Or at least just do digital only if you can't,
Yeah. Let me see. Sword and Serpent. Taylor Marshall. I think I got Kindle versions like okay, so here we go. So the Kindle version is $9.77.
Okay.
The Audible audiobook is $15 with Audible if you have the Premium Plus subscription, but it's $25 otherwise. Yeah, although it does go down significantly if you've bought the Kindle version. Like it drops from $25 down to like $12 or something.
And then what's the paperback?
The paperback is sitting at $20, $19.77. Okay. There is a used copy apparently right now for $3-4. Oh, there's a bunch of used copies right now. That's not. Last time I checked, there was none.
Yeah, there weren't any when I looked.
One, two.
First we were gonna read this.
I mean, you're still talking at least $10. Okay. But when you add in, they're all coming from Goodwill. That's even funnier.
The one major fan who bought a bunch of them decided to die and send all their books to Goodwill.
Jeez. Anyway,
what his biggest fan is gone now, Chris.
Well, that would work.
What will he ever do?
That would work, except they're in like multiple different states.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, I would happily support your narrative because that'd be funny. Anyway, so what's the plot of this book? The plot of this book is essentially you have a Christian family living in the 300 time frame. I think it's like 299 AD is when it starts. And it's the retelling of St. George, at least the legend. The legend of St. George that he fights a dragon.
Say prominent family.
Yeah.
I think that's important to say because the main character, his father was basically in charge of the province area, town, whatever you want to call it.
It is 299 AD. I was right. Whoops. 299 AD.
No one can read that, Chris.
Whatever. All right. And it starts in Anatolia.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, the prologue starts with Diocletian, but that's kind of a brief thing, just like, oh, the gods are silent.
Not that important.
It's
The
not.
prologue is not important. But like, yeah, it's one of, well, it's important to set the stage for the tone, I guess, of how Christians are treated. But
yeah, because really the idea is that in around the time of the Emperor Diocletian, the
there's
pagan
panic
worship,
about the pagan gods. Yeah.
they're worried that the pagan gods abandoned Rome, and they're blaming the Christians. They also blame some other groups, and that's not in this book specifically.
It's just an easy thing to blame people, but yeah.
You're blaming the out groups.
Yeah.
Christians were the out group at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so basically there's this whole journey, but at the start of the journey you find out that Jurian, St. George, he goes by Jurian for reasons that are explained in the book, but St. George basically...
Actual name is what in the book, though?
I just said Jurian 3 times.
No, his actual name.
Georgios.
Yeah, Georgios.
His dad called him Jurian, so he goes by that. Anyway, so basically what happens is you're following Jurian throughout his life. You find out his day, like a day in the life of Jurian, because it doesn't really go for a long time before the action starts.
I was going to say, it's very much a fast turnover.
It's a fast opening.
I mean, okay, if we want to get technical, it's basically the Gladiator movie, but the family, like instead, you know what I'm saying? Like
it's kind of like the Gladiator movie.
Gladiator movie plot line, but from the perspective of Russell Crowe's family.
What year do you know what year Gladiator technically is supposed to take place in?
Oh, it's early because it's when
because it's post AD 33, right? Or is it pre-Jesus?
I mean, it's Marcus Aurelius, so it is. It's that early. It's during the Stoics, man. The 500.
Oh, it's the Stoics. Okay, yeah. Okay. Never mind then. Anyways,
different time, but yeah,
it is pretty similar to the plot of Gladiator, and actually that'll come into play in the second 2 books more. So I'm glad you brought that up. But I do actually think this book would make a good adaptation for a film if you could do it right. For the trilogy.
I'll just say this: the start of this is fairly slow. The average.
Once you get past the house burning down, and
no, it's still slow.
Anyway,
it's slow all the way until they make it to the main destination.
Anyway, the plot of the book is essentially Jurian. It's like a coming of age for Jurian. This book, anyways. Georgios, St. George. All the names apply here. And his starts off with a priest and his mom getting burned down by the Roman officers in the area because his rival, his nemesis, the son of the current procurator, or whatever the heck you call them, consul, whatever the Roman,
the current guy overseeing the city, the town.
The son of him is like the direct nemesis of Jurian. Like Jurian hates this guy, Casca, and Casca plays a very major role throughout the books, but especially in this first one, he does some horrendous things throughout. The first of which is, besides that...
1 second, in fairness to everybody who watches our videos, if you're new, we are sending spoilers in this review.
Right. There will be spoilers here.
There's spoilers, but yeah.
Okay, so basically, though, he accuses Jurian and his family of being Christians. They're on the outs, the Christians are on the outs of the Roman Empire at this time because they're blaming Christians for the lack of communication with the pagan gods that they, subscribe to. And so Casca takes it upon himself with a Roman legion group to burn down Jurian's house with his mom and a priest who is administering last rites still inside. And so his mom and the priest both die. Georgios is helped by Jurian, whatever the heck, is helped by Varro, who basically says, go, get out of town, and go to wherever you have family, which happens to be in Rome.
So
there's this whole aspect of a journey where Mari, his sister, who is with him, and Jurian. They
On
kind
the
of
run.
walk to Rome.
Yeah. They're walking. They're off the beaten track, going through the woods and everything. And they meet this new character when they get to a river where the rival Casca has already made it to the bridge and is guarding them.
Yeah, he's basically waiting to catch Jurian and Mari off guard.
Yeah. So they meet this guy named Menace, and
It's Menas. It's
Menace.
pronounced
I
Menas.
don't care, man. He's a
Because Menace sounds terrible.
Yeah, Menas. He's basically a giant.
Yeah, he's like the last of the Philistines, I think is what he claims.
Like a descendant of them, but yeah. And he basically carries them across the river.
And you find out through him talking about himself that he is where the legend of Saint Christopher comes from. At least that's what this book portrays him as. So like throughout this book, you'll find like cameos from like saints in history. And then after Menas, who's the Christophorus, Saint Christopher, they find out Mari's sick. She's got the same wasting disease as her mom.
There's a different guy who's Saint Christopher in here, dude.
No, there's not.
Yeah, there is. The guy that they go talk to at the one village that helps them.
That's Blasios.
He literally comes out of the chimney.
Well, okay, whatever.
He literally just got done giving away the gifts to this person he literally is the one who did the story. He's the one with the money and everything.
Well, so Saint, do you know anything about Saint Blaise?
No.
That's who Saint Blasios is. Or that's who Blasios is supposed to be. He's supposed to be Saint Blaise because he was known for curing incurable diseases, especially those with the throat.
No, you're talking about a different dude, man. I'm talking about the guy at that's the guy in the cave. I'm talking about the guy with the fish symbol house and everything who gets them on the boats. That's the real Saint Christopher, dude.
Dionysius?
I don't remember. I don't remember the name of the guy, but he's literally the guy that was the one who got them on the boat.
No, the Saint Christopher is Menas.
There's no way.
Yeah, no,
there's no way based off the reading of this.
Yeah, yes, it is. Here, I will find it. Hold on, I'll find it right here. So the reason I know that is because they call him the Christophorus. Hold on, how do you spell that? Nope, that's not it. How do you spell that? Christos.
But the guy's name is literally Nicholas, bro.
You're talking Chris Kringle.
Yeah.
That's not what. No, you're talking about Saint Nicholas.
Oh, Saint Nicholas. Never mind. Whatever.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about?
I got mixed up for a second.
The legend of Saint Christopher is that he comes across a child that needs to cross a river. And it turns out the river. The child that he
sorry, I literally was like you were trying to say because of the
no.
I was thinking it's a more obvious one, and that's why I was confused. I'm like, wait, what?
So in this book, you've got Saint Christopher, you've got Saint Blaise, you've got
Nicholas,
Saint Nicholas, yeah, and then several of the other characters that are like prominent. If you look them up, like the names. Clearly, he was just going for like the who's who of this time frame in Christianity, because almost all of them are like prominent, real people that actually existed.
So,
anyway, you find out Menas is like a former Roman soldier of some sort, or was a soldier or something along those lines. The deserter thing comes way later. That's like when they reach Cyrene. That's when he finds out because the Roman legion calls him a deserter. Anyways, so he basically left his soldiery, his position in the Roman army to follow Christ and essentially help people and do things like that because he discovered that the most powerful person that exists is the Christ, at least in this book, and that's what I believe too. But anyways, so he follows him instead of like the dark people that he was following before. And Jurian and them talk about a lot of different things. They journey through and then they get to port and then they find what was it? Where the heck are they at? It's not Portus. I'm trying to remember where they meet Nicolaus at.
I forget. It's the city before Portus.
Is it Apollonia?
I think so.
I'm trying to remember where they go. Anyways,
Or is it Myrene? Or no, did they skip
Mira.
Mira.
Yeah, because that's where the actual Saint Nicholas lived when he was
they went
alive.
to Mira.
That's right. They went to Mira, and basically Nicklaus is like he absolutely is portrayed in the way that you would view like a Santa Claus or like jolly old Saint Nick.
I don't like the way he's portrayed because I don't believe that's how he actually was.
I have no idea.
No, I mean off of the accounts, man, like literally the dude was way harder than that. He was charitable, but the man stood on business,
Well, he did slap.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The man stood on business. He wasn't just a simple jolly fellow. Like you're kind of just going with the stereotype here now.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. There is a whole nother book in this series. It's not part of the trilogy. That's literally called Nikolaus.
Also, I don't like the way that he's portrayed in the book of being in multiple locations randomly at times because
by location.
Yeah, I don't like it. I just think I guess my problem is that I feel like he does not need to exaggerate Christianity's miracles aspect in the book because the story itself is adequate. But
well, there are multiple saints who have allegedly had bilocation.
Are there tons of them for Nikolaus? I saw him at Saint Nicholas. Are there tons of cases where he's accused of it?
The most recent evidence of somebody having bilocation was Padre Pio.
Okay, but what I'm asking is, did Saint Nicholas have a ton of?
I mean, that's a good question. Yeah, let's look this one up. I'm curious now.
Because it annoyed me because it's just like I feel like you're just trying to use Saint Nicholas to say that there's like this special power for priests. Like that's all. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I understand. I'm just curious now because it was a very clear.
It just felt like him cheaply trying to.
5 saints who allegedly could bilocate. Let's see which ones they have listed. Oh, it's a slideshow. Gosh darn it! I hate these things. So obviously Padre Pio. That's the one we already talked about. Saint Martin, the 1500s. Saint John Bosco. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
The real joke's on us. They all just had twins.
Saint Anthony of Padua. That's a very famous saint. Saint Francis Xavier. Okay, well, I don't see Saint Nicholas on this list.
That's what I'm saying.
Hey, I'm not arguing that one. I did think the bilocation of Saint Nicholas was strange, but I didn't question it because I know saints have had that power.
I know, but I'm just making the point that it felt like he was. It felt like he wanted to be like, yeah, the real Saint Nicholas was more magical. That's why Santa Claus is magical.
I mean, think about it though. How could Santa Claus get to all the houses, all the chimneys in one night?
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying he cheaply does it to be like, yeah, that explains Santa Claus's abilities now, doesn't it, folks? But no, it felt like a cheap trick to put in there. That's all. Mm-hmm. The way he writes it is like magic. That's why I don't like it. He does little things like that in this book that make me just like.
Hey, fair enough. I didn't think about that to be that hard, to be honest with you. There are some other myths or
I didn't have a problem with the healing because I know people can there's miracles that happen.
The miraculous healing, like the one with Blasios and
Blasios healing the sister of her cough, which was basically tuberculosis, or consumption, whichever one you want to go with.
Well, and the aspect of that I enjoy is the fact that when he does it, he says, "Oh no, it wasn't me. It was clearly the power came from above, not me."
Yeah, no, that's what
I appreciated.
That he views himself purely as a channel for God. Yeah,
right.
But no, that's where that worked in the story, the way he does it. But when he gets to Nicholas and he just like makes him so much more larger than life.
Just Nicholas is definitely the larger than life character of this story.
He's made to just like have foreknowledge of all sorts of shit. Like They make him magical. That's the only thing I don't like about it, is that he really goes all out on making him magical.
I mean, in my mind, Nicolaus's story is every bit like a Christian Merlin.
He uses them as such. Yeah, he uses them as such. Yeah, but at that point, it feels more pagan than Christian.
You think so?
A little bit. The way he writes them, he wants to have that wizard character, the old sage wizard character, and I feel like that's how he writes Saint Nicholas.
Yeah.
And he writes him in a way to just make him fun, not necessarily an accurate.
I'm curious if he's got anything written down here with. Yeah, here you go, right here, Christophorus, the Greek for Christ bearer, made us his title and Christian name. So Saint Christopher. Anyways, I was just gonna see if the bilocation was back here at all. I was curious.
No, it doesn't appear so.
It's probably not.
But yeah, that's all I was saying. That's why you get what I'm saying, though, right? When you
I do.
Your second read through, it's just like, because you just described him as like Merlin-esque, like it's.
And the fact that the sword that he picks up later is literally Excalibur.
Yeah.
It just adds to that.
A little weird too, because that's not even part of the legend, is it? I don't recall that.
It makes a lot more sense once you get to book 2 and 3. Because like, I'm not gonna lie, when I read this and I hadn't get to the second and third yet, I was like, really? Excalibur? Like, why?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, I was just saying that it was odd, is all.
Yeah, and then like you got Mirrodin and like,
I mean, he's clearly trying to come up with an excuse to make him go to England, but
well, St. George does go to.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
In real life, yeah.
I know. It's
okay.
St. George's cross is part of the flag, bro. Like,
right. Okay. I just want to make sure that you weren't trying to suggest that didn't happen.
No, I'm saying that's why he's using Excalibur as an excuse to get him to go to England. It's fine.
Oh, they go to Camelotnum and all kinds of places.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's an excuse to to go to Britannia.
And actually, there is like a mixture of like the Lady in the Lake stuff later on too, which is even more bizarre.
But spoilers, Chris. Goodness, Sorry. You're going to the next book on people.
It has no impact on you. Trust me. The other thing about this book is there's like no wiki, there's no information. You can't go to Reddit and find information from this book. So it's the type of book where you can't like look things up as you're reading it, which is nice because you don't like, there aren't very few books these days where you can't just, okay, what happens next? I don't have to read this.
I mean, it is still fiction. Let's just get that out of the way.
It is, yeah. But I will say, from a historical perspective, there's a lot of historical events that I looked up, and I was like, oh, that really happened.
No, I'm saying it's inspired by historical events, but it's still fiction. Right. So where were we? We got it where they made it to Mira.
Nikolaus, yeah, they made
with Nikolaus. He basically has all this magic foresight to know exactly what ship is going to be there. Gets them on the boat.
Well, they do kind of explain that he doesn't have control over it. God just kind of like shows him things when he wants to.
They make it. That's why I don't. Okay, I still don't like it because it makes God and the saints sound woo woo as shit, man. It's super weird.
Woo woo.
Super woo woo, like magic shit.
I mean, miracles would feel or look like magic.
It's not a miracle that you know that a boat's in frickin' harbor, dude. I'm sorry,
fair enough.
That's a miracle to me. That's just it's just a weird magic thing where it's just like you didn't really need to even have it that way. It's just like, this guy might be there. It's about that time of year.
Anyway, I mean, you're not like wrong. He could have just had the connections from his goodwill and known the people were going to be there. And instead,
they make like the master of whispers, where he like all sorts of gossip because he's always slumming it with the poor people who he's handing off money to.
There's a way you could have written him where he didn't have all this extra magic going on.
Yeah.
Or miraculous vision or foresight. But like the legends, if you just look up legends of St. Nicholas, there's so many crazy things that are allegedly attributed to him. So I don't know.
It's the first weird thing.
The legend of him slapping Arius is even weirder. I don't know if you know the background.
No, yeah, about being in the cell and everything.
Gets in the cell, and then Basically he's in prisoner's clothes, and then when they come to check on him again, he's like fully robed in priestly robes, and they're like, what the heck, let him out.
No, he's got a
He's
Bible,
known for
all
a
sorts
lot
of
of stuff.
No, he has a lot of crazy stories. I'm just making the point though that like
You think the bilocation and the foresight might have been a stretch too far?
To the average reader, you're making it seem kind of magical.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the point, though, is like the.
But I feel like it detracts, Chris.
It absolutely could.
Depending on who's reading, it could detract. So they take a boat from there, basically go to Rome. Like the main plot, there's not much eventful stuff that happens until they get guidance to Rome.
And then when they get to Rome, they have to figure out the riddle of you need to see the rock, the tomb of the rock.
Well, their guide basically tells them exactly what that is.
And then he's like, the tomb of the rock, you mean the Petrus, right? And he's like, is that what you meant? Like, oh, okay. Like, obviously.
So we go see the Pope.
Which they actually don't refer to as the Pope. They call him the Papas, the Petrus, lots of other things, but not the Pope.
He gets this magic sword.
Excalibur.
Yeah.
But then they explain. So here's something that I'm not. I have to look this one up, because when they meet up with the Celtic sailors, which I'm not sure if that's historically accurate. There would have been Celtic sailors back then. Maybe there would be. Maybe there wouldn't be. I don't know.
I mean, the Celts did get pretty far in places, but you never know.
But then they translate it, and like hold on, I want to look this one up, because the most interesting part was them, at least with the sword.
Well, we skipped a part before that.
Go ahead.
His sister gets killed.
Yeah.
Because when he's in Rome, he spends time with his cousin. He finds his cousin. He goes, hangs out with his cousin. He ends up going to a house party. His sister decides to go hunt him down, goes to said house party, gets found out as a Christian because Kreska is there.
Right.
And, he kills her. Straight out just kills her.
Yeah, Casca kills her.
Casca just kills her.
We've skipped over an entire main character, though, too.
Who?
Sabra.
Oh, well. It's because she's not that interesting yet.
Yeah, she's not, but it is important to point out that there's another main character story going on at this whole time.
Yeah.
In the background. A character named Sabra, who is the priestess of a cult of Moloch in Cyrene.
Yeah.
And the rumors are that there's a dragon flying around. Hence,
well, it's not a rumor about a dragon. It's a rumor about their god.
Yeah, and the fact that they're sacrificing people, which is not kosher with the Roman Empire at the time.
Yeah, it's just a rumor.
Unless you're a Christian, and then they can sacrifice you wherever, whenever.
They don't sacrifice people. No, but Cyrene is the ugly stepchild in North Africa, because it still does that human sacrifice stuff that everyone in Rome's just like, what the heck's wrong with you people? So they're sacrificing children to Molech, and it's one of those things where she's the one who's supposed to be sacrificed. Her father basically forces her to go to Rome and get safety there.
Yeah, her dad, basically, who's the governor of Cyrene, secretly sneaks her out so that he doesn't have to watch his daughter get killed.
He drugs her and sends her away.
Right.
So then she has to try to get back, because she's a devout believer as the priestess that she's supposed to sacrifice herself.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not important, Chris, because the thing is, there's a dual way of interpreting the inscription on the sword. Either that the sword kills the dragon, or the dragon kills the person with the sword.
I know, that's what I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find that.
It's not an easy thing. You're better off looking up her other
Ava
name. Yeah,
because she was Ava at the time,
because she's the one who asks the question.
That's right. Well, I can find the Celtic sailor. Hold on. Let's see.
It's the younger one. That's the.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the sister Mari dies, and really just I don't know. I thought that was the way she dies is kind of lazily done. I don't know.
The way Mari dies
Yeah, when she gets
by
her.
she gets stabbed and falls in the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I
I don't
mean,
know. It felt like he was writing it specifically just to kill her, and it's still weird to me. It felt lazy, but that's just me.
I mean, I think she had like somehow she has to exit stage left, or else Jurian
Yeah,
can't go on his mission. It's like I get it.
he could have easily just left her with the family too, though.
Well, he wanted to. Like Jurian wanted to, anyways. But it does add up to something later on in the story. Kind of a final hurrah. Like,
did the real Saint George have a sister who was killed for being Christian?
I have no
This is my
idea.
question. That's my question I had. I never looked it up.
Well, let me look that up.
But given that's why it's just like I was confused as to like, is this an accurate thing or did he just write it this way to?
A lot of the second and third book I've looked up and they were mostly accurate. The first book, I spent the least amount of time looking things up. I'm not going to lie.
But yeah, because the way he writes it doesn't feel like it's based off of a true thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't know if there's anything that you can find.
It does not appear that anyone talks about him having a sister, man.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't hurt to tell the story that way. I don't know. I have far less problems with the sister thing than you do. I actually had more of a problem with some other things later on. Like,
I had a lot of problems later on too. Don't worry. And we're getting there, Chris. We're getting there. I was just saying that between the way he does Saint Nicholas's character, the way he writes the sister once they make it to Rome, there's just little things like that, you know. It shouldn't have been that hard to find their family either, by the way.
To find what?
Shouldn't have been that hard to find their family. So like go to them.
Oh, this is what I was looking for. Ex Calce Liberandis. I'm curious if that's actually what Excalibur's name comes from, because that literally does translate to from stone to be freed. So I don't know if that was like him expounding upon the name of Excalibur and just being like, hey, this fits. Let's make this like short for. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, I don't know, man.
I thought that was kind of a cool little idea. I don't know if it's the real name or not.
He gets told to go to Cyrene because of the dragon.
Right. Because of the prophecy in the dragon.
Yeah. And that's how he ends up meeting up with Sabra.
Right. Who's pretending to be Ava escaping
Ava,
Rome.
So yeah.
And she abandons her slave Hanno.
Yeah.
Who is the main character throughout the story. And actually, one other thing happens to Sabra before the Rome journey, when her personal slave, her servant, Isabella, I remember, Isabel, however you pronounce that name, she's found to be a Christian and was plotting against Sabra. Really, she was just trying to get one of the sacrifices to Moloch freed and to escape the sacrifice, the sacrificial ceremony.
She was just trying to get her away.
Elisa. Elisa. And Isabel suffers some terrible, terrible punishment because she refuses to sacrifice Diocletian.
There's worse punishments out there that Christians.
But it was pretty terrible what happened to her.
Yeah, it was torture. Public torture.
Because she refused to bow to Diocletian. Diocletian, how do you pronounce that name?
The emperor's bust.
Yes. So she did not burn incense to him.
Yeah. So I would argue that most of this journey is uneventful until they make it back
to Cyrene.
A lot of pages dedicated to it still, but relatively uneventful.
A lot of this is set up for future things.
Okay.
Which, if you were reading this book and like trying to decide if you're getting into the trilogy or not, that's a weakness of the book. Is there's so much set up in this one book to get you to the next
I
books.
concur. Because there's a lot of parts that are fairly weak. And
in fact, a lot of the reviews on book 2 and 3 will say like this trilogy gets better as you read more books in it.
So they make it back. They eventually get attacked because what I forget.
The Legion spots Georgios, Jurian, and Manas, and they recognize Manas as the traitor of the Legion, so they attack them. Sabra runs, Jurian hides, Manas gets captured.
Yeah, and then he finds the one slave,
Hano. And he also finds the wooden spear, which is important.
Yeah, because that had
a relic of the cross in it.
Yeah,
which was brought to Cyrene by Simon of Cyrene, who is in the Bible. Actually, he's the one that carries the cross with Jesus. And historically speaking, that is accurate. He did go to Cyrene after the fact, I believe.
So they basically then chase after Sabra because she's going to go sacrifice herself to the dragon.
Yep.
They make it there. There's a whole conflict. I don't want to spoil the conflict. I mean, he kills the dragon. History, but the method of the debate there while he's fighting the dragon isn't something I would want to spoil. So because there's a lot of dialogue there.
The real question I never did figure out is the spirit of the dragon. Did you feel like that was straight up the devil or a different spirit?
I think it was a demon.
Probably a demon.
A servant.
So like it could literally be like the demon Moloch, potentially.
I mean, it's a format, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure. I was like trying to decide because he talks about being the serpent and this and that, and it's like all over the place. And so I really had a hard time deciding if he's facing like literally Satan or a minion of Satan.
I mean, I think it's more a minion because they do talk they them bullshit, right?
Yeah.
They're like a hive mind concept of
true.
Like with the demons and everything, they're all a hive mind of one goal, one mission. So they have names. That's why they hate it when they're called by their names, because
right.
You break that hive mind of collectivism that they have, right?
That's the idea, especially in exorcisms and stuff.
Yeah. So it's because when they get called out by their individual name, it's almost as if they're being called out for their own personal failing.
Yeah.
Since they are fallen angels and shit. So
right.
That's why it's actually kind of interesting when you think about it, right? Because God's all about the individual.
Right.
So the second you bring attention to what God intended for them instead of what they're like,
what they've done.
Yeah, well, what they champion, right? Because the whole thing of Lucifer was to like force everybody to conform and be a one mind concept of like they can't sin because I won't allow them to.
Right.
It's one of those crazy things where it's like they're the polar opposite now of the individual creations that they were.
I think I understand what you're saying.
So we're I guess rabbit holing that one for a second there, but
yeah.
So he kills the dragon, and then the rest of the story is basically
the fallout from that.
And I don't really like the fallout. Frankly,
you feel like, honestly, I will say this: the first time I read this book, I really was like, man, why doesn't he just take Sabra with him?
That was exactly my opinion.
But it all
she clearly wants to go with him, right?
It all shakes out the way it's meant to, because it makes sense once you get to book 2 and 3. But
Okay,
St. George does not get married, so like, and he doesn't have children according to the little bit we know about him.
My problem is in this book,
it feels like he should take the girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Trust me, I felt the same way when I read the book.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where the writing of this first book clearly has so much in mind for book 2.
It does.
That it lacks logic and convincing.
In some of the decisions.
Yeah, like, okay, taking the girl with you would be 100% the decision that should be made. Whereas, then if he has a change of like perspective based on his faith journey or whatever, I mean, Sabra being a priestess herself for a different god at one point would have understood that, right?
Well, that's not how it shakes out. You'll understand more when you read book 2 and 3.
I get it. I'm just making a point that there's parts where he clearly wants a specific thing for book 2, but it feels like he didn't put the time into the character development to make it make sense.
Yeah.
Is that a fair criticism? I think it's fair.
There are definitely pieces of this book where I felt like it was either rushed or not explained well, or like there was something there that wasn't explained.
Yeah. There's a motive there that's not explained.
Yeah.
But that doesn't seem within character either.
But it does make sense once you read book 2 and 3. So there is I would say if there's a weakness in this trilogy, it's that book 1 is setting up for book 2 and 3, but it doesn't give you enough to recognize.
It also takes shortcuts. Shortcuts.
In which parts?
In the sense that it doesn't make sense. It only makes sense in retrospect because of book 2 and 3.
It makes more sense because of book 2 and 3.
Yeah. But it doesn't make sense still because it seemed out of character when you read it.
Yeah.
It's just because it makes more sense later doesn't mean it necessarily makes sense. It just feels like it can be explained.
The weakness of this trilogy is that it's relying on this book to sell you the other 2. And
I don't know if it does.
And it's depending on who's reading it and why, or if you're intending to read the trilogy outright, like, okay, good, that person will finish it and get the what's like what is there between the 3 books is a great story.
Oh, okay. I'll say this. The biggest issue is he's relying on 2 hooks. There's only 2 hooks that inspire someone to read book 2. That is, will he rescue Manos? And is he ever going to make it to England? Britannia, I should say.
Britannia. Yeah, it is Britannia.
It's Britannia.
By the way, there's that Amazon show Britannia. I tried watching that. It's
atrocious.
Yeah.
All right. Don't watch that. That's
no, awful. We turned it off after.
It's inaccurate as all hell. So yeah, what I'm trying to say though is he relies on those 2 hooks to get you to read book 2, and I don't know if that's necessarily compelling enough because this book is 400 pages basically.
Yeah, about right around 400.
That's a lot of pages, dude.
Although it is a pretty quick read. I don't feel like
it is so slow in the early half.
When I say quick, what I mean is like the font is large and there's lots of spacing in the font. Like it's not it's dense font,
but it's boring in the beginning.
Yeah, the beginning is a little harder. Like I will say this trilogy starts off pretty slow.
This is a book that does not reach out and grab the reader, and I'm just saying, like, that's what I'm trying to say is like when he ends it too, his cliffhanger. I don't know if it's a convincing enough way of doing a cliffhanger.
I think if he would have started on book 2 and like this was like a prologue, people would be more invested to read it than because this is literally the legend. This is Saint. Everything in this book is based on the original legend.
Mm-hmm.
Book 2 and 3, he gets his own creative direction for St. George.
Okay.
And it actually shows a lot more strength in his writing. And I think you'll appreciate book 2 and 3 because there's.
So would you agree that in this one he's kind of just jumping from location to location and trying to write between the lines, but like
There's a lot going on here. I feel like he wanted the world to be big in book 1.
That's fair.
And in book 2 and 3, because you've got that perspective of the big world in book 1.
You can't.
I'm just saying, like he was. I think it's world building. It's just not done as well as like a Tolkien or a C.S. Lewis.
I guess that's where I'm trying to go with this. I'm trying to not be harsh, in the sense of like, am I being harsh because we've read a lot of Tolkien and Lewis in recent days? I don't know if I am, because I have read other books still, and
this is his only fiction series. This is it. This is the only time he's ever stepped into fiction, and this was his first attempt. So, like, as far as fiction, like a first outing for like, normally what he writes is like scholarly stuff, or like maybe not scholarly, but more like manual theology.
Yeah, I'm trying to think right now of the other books, because maybe we've just been really spoiled with what we've chosen to read as part of our book club.
I will say the book is more exciting in the audiobook because of the way the narration is handled.
That's fair. I was reading it probably very monotonally in my head.
Probably. The Kennedy Hall does a fantastic job with the audiobook for this.
So I think we should rate it at this point in time. I think we've discussed it.
I guess the only thing I would have to ask you still.
Yeah.
Non-communist D. Oh, this is a fake. This is a fake profile. They're trying to offer us money or not money, promotion.
Yeah.
Yeah, nope, ain't gonna happen.
No, thank you. I don't want to be promoted.
Yeah, we don't. Anyway, I think for a first outing in fiction, I think this is a very good book, and I'm a little biased because I've read the whole trilogy already.
Okay, you're gonna ask me something though.
Oh, is there any takeaways from this book? Like, I guess, did you feel the same way about this book as other books with a niche audience, or did you feel like this is a broader book that you don't necessarily have to be a specific type of Christian or even a Christian at all to read? Because I personally feel like most groups.
This is tough for me. This is tough for me. Mainly because I feel like the one thing he did that does make it niche is St. Nicholas. Because I think it can rub people a lot of different ways. I think it could rub Catholics a weird way. I think it could rub Protestants for sure a weird way. And even the non-whatever, I think it rubs them the weird way, because even when I read it, I saw it from all three perspectives of weird at times.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really did feel like he was trying to make like a magic component to it in some instances. I don't know. I felt unnecessary. I know he wanted to put all important characters in there as like Easter eggs and shit, but like the way he does Nicholas is odd.
I did feel like the amount of people they run into from point A to point B, where he's following his mission, right?
Yeah.
It's like what are the chances he runs into all of these real big name people from early Christianity? Like, I get it because Nicholas was his, but like as I was reading it, like there was a couple moments where I was just like, really, he runs into yet another saint? Like, what are the chances?
I mean, okay, my point is he didn't need Blasios in the woods. Not really.
It's a cool Easter egg. I don't have a problem with that one.
My point is the sister did not need to actually be sick in the journey. Frankly,
she didn't have to be sick.
It almost would have been better if she wasn't sick, based off of the
Well,
way she dies,
you'd probably cut like 50 pages out of the book if you didn't have her be sick.
and based on the fact that she dies anyway,
Yeah,
pointless.
that's not pointless. I mean, it is one of those. It's a step towards
he wants an
Jurian
excuse
being
to do it.
convinced.
He wants an excuse for there to be a faith healing. That's all. We can
No, like part of it is because Jurian's not as convinced about his faith as like Mari or his mom or even his dad.
Yeah.
So like part of it is that it's like the building up of the faith of Jurian throughout the book, and like one of the miraculous healing does something for his faith. So it's important that that's there.
I get it. I'm just saying, like, then he doesn't need Saint Nicholas. Not really. That's my point. Like, he adds too much in the way that you just said. Like
later on, Saint Nicholas has a more prominent role.
Okay.
Than he had in this book, and it makes more sense based on the historical evidence of Saint Nicholas.
Okay. Fair.
I'm not going to say more than that, but
yeah, fair enough. I'm just saying, as far as
he definitely belongs to this story.
As far as the first book goes, I would just say that his writing is weak in the first book. There's weaknesses to how, if it was simply just the excessive amount of that, but it's also the fact that he has those things where they feel out of character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's too many parts that feel out of character for certain characters, like even just Jurian not taking Sabra with him, not even thinking about it, was weird. Not even asking if she would want to go with. Odd. So yeah. What would you rate it? Since you clearly like it, you're biased by the other.
Because I've read the whole trilogy, and I've even read the prologue about Saint Nicholas, because that was his bonus book he wrote last year around Christmas. I want to put it at a 4.
Okay. You're kinder than me.
I want to put it at a 4. I think for a first, and you got to remember, this book is geared for young adults.
Yeah, but I'm not about to. I'm going to judge it on the.
I also like quality. The fact that he doesn't shy away from the horrors of child sacrifice in the Cult of Moloch. Okay. And that's something he could have easily like kind of shoved aside and like pretended like, oh, that's not in this book.
That would have been pointless, though.
That's in there. Like he's got some very deep things that most young adult fiction, especially of a Christian nature, shy away from.
I'm sorry, but I think I'm going to have to go with a 2.
I was wondering if you were going to seriously go that low.
Yeah, I actually have to. Just because of how slow the book starts. I could see a lot of people failing to make it past halfway before they give up on it.
This first book took me the longest out of all 3 of them. And even as the shortest, I had a much harder time getting through this one than the other 2.
That's what I'm saying. Even you had a hard time reading it, and you wanted to read it.
I did want to read it. Yeah. That's not a.
My point is that I feel like this book is a book that a lot of kids would get as like a gift, not necessarily as a book that they themselves are dying to read.
Sure.
I don't see it as one where he has a good enough hook in the beginning half of the book to really, pull that. There's like, this feels like it's dragging. There's some weird elements to it that we've discussed that I felt like were excessive. And then the parts where they act out of character kind of sour the ending. Like big time sour the ending. So, because you're just like, where does that make any sense, that decision? So that's the only reason I gotta go with the 2. I'm just seeing as how I've rated other books, I have to.
Okay, so the bilocation thing, there's evidence of it.
For Saint Nicholas?
Yes. Here you go. So a miracle attributed to Nicholas is his intervention during a fierce storm at sea. As the legend goes, sailors aboard a ship off the coast of Lycia, I think,
How drunk were these sailors, Chris?
Found themselves in the midst of a tempest, fearing for their lives, to pray to God for salvation. And miraculously, the figure of St. Nicholas is said to have appeared before them, calming the storm and ensuring their safe passage. So he wasn't actually there, but they saw him. So that's one, and actually that's in the Nicolaus book, that exact scenario. So technically speaking, there is some evidence that points to him having done something like that.
Fine, I'll give it a 2.5.
Now, did I feel like it was weird because I don't generally associate St. Nicholas that way? Yes, I did think it was kind of strange.
It's also a thing that people don't really think of as a thing, Chris. That's what makes it weird.
If you haven't like studied like Padre
the
Pio,
average
like
person is going to, even the average believer is going to feel like that's like, do I really believe it? Yeah.
I mean, but
I'll give it a 2.5. I'll bump it up a 0.5 just because there was a specific case for Nicholas. All right, so it's not like he's just writing it because it's like Santa Claus.
I'm sure he had to hunt for that detail to make sure he could use it, but still, I don't know. I guess in my mind,
that's why I'm at I'll go to 2.5. Because
one of the things that I did like,
proven to have some basis, but
there was an interview where they were like, well, what formed this? Apparently, the way that this whole thing shook out, the reason why these books exist is because his kids wanted him to tell bedtime stories, and so he just started telling stories about St. George. And eventually it solidified into him writing some of them down. And then his priest told him in confession he should write the book.
Makes a lot of sense because he was clearly trying to put those children to sleep with this first book.
Yeah, she was such a jerk.
What? There's accuracy that just solidifies it, dude. He was trying to make him fall asleep. That's why it's so boring for the first. You know how many times he probably told the first part of the story to these kids? He probably got months of bedtime story material just out of the first half of this book.
I don't think this book needs to be as long as it is, but the second and the third book do. So
okay. I mean, that's when he was like, "Oh, they're finally calling me out on the fact that they finally heard the full first half of this book. I gotta actually write something now."
I will say that the one thing that tells me he hasn't sold a lot of these copies yet, at least the physical ones, is because at the back of the book it says, let me see, where is it at? Let me find it. No. Okay, so it says bonus content for the first 3,000 copies of Sword and Serpent, right?
Yeah.
So this is one of them, and I bought this recently, and the other one I bought also had the thing on it. Yeah. So it's not like I just happened to get new old stock. It's unlikely he has sold 3,000 physical copies of this book.
I mean, when he's charging $20 for the book, yes.
Now the Kindle one, he's got more reviews than 3,000, I think, if I remember correctly, or it's close. So like he sold more than that Kindle.
You know what? You want to know the truth of it, Chris?
What's that?
I bet both of them are priced to give the same profit.
You think the physical costs that much? I guess in small quantities, maybe.
Yeah, I bet the physical and the digital version are priced to give the same revenue output.
Probably.
And that's why he priced it so for the for his physical copy, just because that way he's making the same amount of money, and he's also incentivizing people to buy the Kindle version just because it's cheaper.
But I will agree with your comment at the beginning. If you're trying to build a collector's market with your books, you should absolutely go the hardcover route. Like even if it's more expensive, like even if it was like a $40 book.
Yeah, it's worth it. You get the because one, it would probably, the cover is clean. It's nice.
I like this cover. It's a cool cover.
I'm saying the cover is clean. It's nice. It would look good in a nice hardcover version.
Maybe I'll make this one of my leather-bound projects.
I mean, honestly, that would look really cool as a leather-bound if you had that style cover on it. Because
I'm working on getting myself one of those foil printers, and I'm totally gonna map this out. If I do it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's where I was at with it. I wasn't not sure, man.
Like I said, I give it a 4, but like I'm biased from reading the second and the third book, so
that's why I might be a little harsher.
that's why I'm here to give it a 2.5. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I might be a little harsher because you're so glowing with it, like. But
Well, I mean, it was a similar rating with Lockdown with the Devil, although you and I both agreed this book is not nearly as alienating to non-Catholics as that one was.
No, it's just that certain parts can be questionable. So
fair enough. But anyways, is there anything else you wanted to say about this one?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, as always, I'm Chris.
And I'm Andrew.
And we will see you
on the next episode
of whatever we decide to do next week. It might be Seneca. It might be, I don't know yet.